All right, Carrie, I think we should be okay to get ready if that's okay with you.
Sounds
Awesome.
great, yeah.
So hello, everyone, and welcome to today's virtual training session brought to you by the Canadian Professional Sales Association and course facilitator Carrie Cuterillo, sales coach and managing partner at Results by Design Consultants Incorporated. My name is Rupelin, and I will be today's moderator. Today's session is dedicated to growing wallet share, and Carrie will help you understand how to move beyond a supplier relationship and discover how to engage with your customer's organization at a higher level and become a strategic partner. In this session, we will also cover how to grow your wallet share naturally by evolving your traditional relationships into synergistic relationships. Strategic account management is about navigating through your accounts, understanding what your client's value is, and knowing when you need to adjust the time and value you invest in those accounts. Carrie Cuterillo, CSL, is an experienced instructor, sales coach, and CPSA facilitator. She has spent over 20 years working in business-to-business sales and sales leadership roles. Carrie has led large-scale sales development initiatives to transform sales cultures, which have improved customer experience and sales achievement. Her previous experience includes management training, organizational development, product management, project management, and human capital management consulting. Carrie holds a Master of Adult Education and also maintains her Ontario Certified Teaching designation. Carrie has earned her Certified Sales Leader designation from the CPSA as well. Please note that all of today's attendees have been placed on mute for the duration of the session, and you may ask questions at the end using the question function of your GoToWebinar dashboard. Carrie has kindly offered to answer any questions throughout, so if you have any, please feel free to enter them in the questions function, and we can go through them throughout the session as well. The session has also been recorded, and a link to the recording will be sent to you shortly. Now, without further ado, I'll hand it over to Carrie to start.
Okay, thank you so much, Rupelin, and welcome everyone. As Rupelin said, please, if you do have questions as we go through this really valuable topic, don't hesitate to use the question tool in the webinar to be able to post your questions. I'll also be asking you some questions throughout the webinar as well, just to get your take and feedback on things. So this session in particular is really kind of near and dear to my heart. I've spent, as Rupelin said, most of my career in sales. The majority of that time has really been focused on account management, both as a sales rep and managing accounts within those teams, as well as leading those teams. And so for me, this is a really important topic for us to go through. As Rupelin talked about, we're focused on growing wallet share. How do we do that? Now more than ever, there's a need to really ensure that we understand our customers, and perhaps even more so, understand the value that we can provide to them. So this session is really about giving you some strategies to help you develop your account retention strategic plan. Now, there's a great survey that was done by the CPSA last couple of months, all on perceptions and focus and priorities of businesses in light of COVID. How has that shifted or pivoted the focus within sales teams? Rupelin is going to share that link with you. So if you like to refer to the survey and the results, you can definitely go back and refer to that. But what I found interesting that came out of that survey was a real focus now on retention and growth within our current customer base. And so for the most 63% of those surveyed found that they need to have a stronger focus on account management in 2021. In fact, the #1 priority was to grow wallet share within their customer base, right? To look for revenue opportunities within the current customers that you provide service or solutions to today. And so, you know the old saying, it's easier to sell to a customer you have than trying to find a new one. I'd probably amend that saying. I don't think it's easier. I think there's more potential to sell to a current customer. But the process can be complex, right? We have to look for specific value levers in order to be able to share our value story in the best way possible. And so this session really is about helping you to build out that client retention strategic plan. And the way to build that out is to focus on the relationship. Have we truly assessed our level of relationship with the customer? And do we understand the value that we currently provide to the client today? And do we understand the value that the customer would want from us now and in the future? So let's start there. As we move forward on this topic, the very first thing you want to do with your teams is to really ensure that you are level setting on the current value that your relationship provides to your client today. And so this is something that reps you can do across your book of business. I find it really valuable to actually do this assessment client by client. So pick your key accounts, the ones that you are really looking to, for some growth, looking for some potential opportunity, and go through this assessment. Start with, what's the value that we provide to them today? Are we at the supply sell level of value? Are we really providing a service or a product to the client that seems a little bit more of a transactional relationship, right? They're really focused in on the product or the service, but we don't really provide any other additional support beyond that. Are you more at the solution or consultant stage of value? Which means not only do they get a great solution from us, but they also value our expertise, our guidance, our industry knowledge. Or are we truly at that strategic partner level where we become an extension of their business? So first thing to do is to really assess where are you at in this value pyramid. And to help you do that more, sort of more in depth, or to really help you to better delineate where you are, think about, again, what's your focus with the account and who are you selling to? So at the supply sell level, you can see with the arrows on the right-hand side, typically the investment in the relationship, both by us and by the client, tends to be fairly low. What tends to be high is a focus on the features of the product or the service, and there might be a high level of price sensitivity as well. So in the supply sell level, we may be more transactionally focused. We may have very limited contacts within the client's organization. So our main point of contact might be procurement or finance, but we're very siloed. And the focus from the customer's point of view is really about managing costs and for us to deliver, the solution in the most cost-effective way possible. As we move up the pyramid, start asking yourself, is there opportunity for us to actually enhance the relationship and get to that solution consult level, where there's more of an investment of our time and, as well, more of an investment of the client's time in the overall relationship. There's less of a focus on price sensitivity because overall, we're focused on the total solution that we provide. That includes our product and service, but that also includes the expertise, the experience, and the knowledge that we can bring to that customer. It's a very different conversation with the client at this level. As opposed to talking about the features of a solution or the price points, the conversations may be around, how is this going to impact our profitability? How is this going to help me to sell more to my customers? How is this going to improve performance? So you're starting to focus more on the overall return on investment for the customer. You may be sort of in this stage already with a client and looking to move to that next level of strategic partner. And whenever I talk to sales reps, account executives, often their ultimate goal is to become that trusted advisor of the client, right? We all want to be a strategic partner, but what does that actually mean in practice, right? What is that going to look like? So at that strategic partner level, there's a high level of organizational infiltration, right? We've gone high, wide, and deep. We're talking to people across the business at different levels of the business. We are an extension in some ways of the client's organization. And we're really involved not only in helping to quantify the return on investment, we're involved in helping to define the solution, the strategy, and how ROI will be measured. So what are the measurements or metrics that are most important? So again, the focus is more on how can we enable your success as a business? So that's at that strategic value level. So if you're looking at across your account base, the reality is you are going to have some relationships with clients at each level within the value pyramid, perhaps. You may not be at that strategic level with your customers. That might be a go forward plan or a future vision plan to get to. There are some clients that you do not want to move up in the value pyramid because it just isn't worth your time. It's not, there's not a good return on time invested for you. And so it's really important as a first step in looking for growth opportunity and the growth of wallet within your customer base to first focus on what's the relationship that we have today and where do we want to be? And what's our pathway to get there? What would that look like for us? And so I think this is a very first step in analyzing the relationship you've got, as I said, with your current customer base. Pick a couple of key accounts, go through this exercise. And if you work with an extended sales team, bring in those internal individuals that can provide some perspective on this information, right? On perspective on your current level of relationship with the customer. And pick up on some of these key tells, right? Where's the focus of the customer? How much are they investing in the relationship? Who am I speaking to? Is it a limited number of contacts? Do I have a broad range of contacts and connections within the client's business? And what's our talk track, right? What are we focused on when we speak to the client? What's the language that we use? And what's the language that the customer uses to describe our partnership, our relationship? So that's the value pyramid. And so love to post a question to you. So we'll do this in a poll. Rupalin will get that ready so you can see that on your screen and respond. But here's the question. What do you think is the risk if a client simply sees you at the supply level today? So if we're only at that supply cell level, that transactional level, what's the risk? And I'll give you a moment to respond to that.
Launch. So the poll is now open.
Wonderful. So I'll give you a moment to respond to that.
Most of us have voted. I'm just going to give it an extra 10 seconds if that's okay with you, Carrie.
Okay, sounds great. And there definitely can be more than one, guys, right? So there's not just one right answer here. Is what is the risk, right? If a customer simply sees you at that sort of supply cell level today.
All right. So we'll go ahead and share. We have 58% saying clients can leave you very quickly. 17% saying price sensitivity is high. 13% saying very competitive, and 12% saying it's a commodity space.
Oh, absolutely. I love that the majority of you really focused in on the fact that clients can leave you very quickly, right? There's no stickiness at the supply cell level, because think about what we're doing. We're really focusing in on price and differentiating ourselves based on the features of the solution. So when we're at that level, it is very easy for, let's put the session back up here. There we go. It's very easy for a client to leave and go somewhere else, right? It's very easy for them to go to another provider or another vendor if that vendor offers a lower price or has a feature that is missing from your current solution. And so I think that's a really good thing that you guys talked about. All of the other ones are equally as important, right? I mean, again, what's some of the risks here? The risk is we have a very siloed relationship. And again, it leads to that ultimate ability for a client to leave. Because if we lose that one point of contact that we have within the customer's business, that might put our whole relationship in jeopardy. And so really, you've got to think about, again, what's the level that we're at, and are we assessing that from an objective point of view? So that's the first step in assessing your overall relationship and starting to develop an overall client retention strategy for you and for your customer's organization. So a couple of things to think about. As you go through this assessment, keep some of these questions in mind. Is the objective to build an environment where every client looks to get to that strategic or partnership level, if that's realistic? And why not? Why wouldn't it be? So make sure that when you are assessing your customer relationships, you're really focused in on not only where do we want to be with this client, is there opportunity to build the relationship and hopefully, again, create stickiness, create retention within that account, enhance the retention, as well as look for more opportunity to build value to the client. Is there opportunity to do that if yes, great. Is it realistic? What's your time frame? What are your goals, right? How are you going to measure whether or not you're doing that successfully? And if not, why not? All right, what's the return on investment for you as a business? Is there opportunity for growth? Does that match your own strategic plan as a company? And it may not. So assessing that from an objective point of view is really critical. As well as, when is it realistic to expect to climb to that strategic or partnership level of the value pyramid? There may be a cyclical timing for when you can do that. So, which means we need to understand how our customers set their goals, how they set their agenda for the business, on what type of time frame do they put in place to do that, and how do we get ahead of it. I had a rep who shared this story with me just a couple of days ago. They said, I'm so close to getting to that strategic level within my customer's business. We're really starting to talk differently about the solution. We're focused more on the knowledge and the relationship and the value that we can provide to them. Unfortunately, I missed the window by a month because the strategic planning cycle for this customer happened a month ago. And if I had known that ahead of time, I might have done some things differently at the end of 2020 in order to get myself and the team prepared for that. So a great question to ask your customers: what is their strategic planning cycle look like? When do they set goals as a business? How do they measure success against those goals, and what are the timeframes involved? That way it can really help you to plan out which customers you want to focus on now and which ones are more of a future longer term investment in your time. And then a question to always ask yourself is it ever acceptable to operate at the supply level? Why or why not? Hopefully from the conversations we've been having, the great answer to this is absolutely it's acceptable. If the customer sees us as a supplier, if there is no opportunity for further growth beyond what we currently provide to them today, it is absolutely acceptable to continue to provide a great solution, a great product, a great service, and be able to demonstrate the value that that great product or great service provides to your customer. For me, that's table stakes, right? That's the foundation in which we build a relationship. We have to start there. And so we have to be able to prove the value of what we currently provide to the client. And for some organizations, for some customers, that is going to be enough. They are not in a position to further invest in the relationship. And so therefore, we should not be in a position to further invest in the relationship. So a great test or a great assessment for you to do as you start to look at sort of that level of the value pyramid and the potential to move your customer through that, through those levels, is to really objectively assess how much time am I spending on this relationship and how much is my client invested in the relationship. And if there is if we're out of balance in any way in that level of investment, then we need to realistically assess whether or not we can actually move them up in the value pyramid. And so the farther up in that chain the client is, the more potential in potential revenue and the more potential for increasing our footprint within that client's business, right? And so really keep thinking about what's that level of relationship and ask yourself these questions to be able to assess where you are today and where you want to be. Okay, so if that's the first step, the second thing I'd like you to think about as you're assessing your overall customer relationships is how are we connected to the individuals within that client's organization? At the end of the day, your customers do not buy your stuff. They don't. It's the people within the organizations that do. And are you optimally positioned the way that you've structured your relationship strategy to be able to leverage key contacts within your customer's relationship, as well as to build on that relationship strategy, build on the connections that you have? Typically the higher, wider, and deeper we are in a relationship, the more stickiness, the more value we can provide, and typically the more strategic we can be, right, with the client as a whole. And so take a moment to also assess what is our partnership model today. So is it like this traditional model where there's one customer contact to our main point of contact? And so this is often what we see when we look at sort of the relationships between our customers and ourselves. What do you think is the risk? And please take a moment to put this in the question section. What do you think is the risk of this type of traditional partnership? One supplier contact to one client contact. What's the potential risk there? So I'll just give you a moment to respond to that.
I have a few responses, Carrie. Someone moving out of the organization risks losing the business, loses contact, less leverage.
Yeah, it sounds like everybody's on the right track with this, for sure. You know, one of the biggest
from the customer.
Disconnection, absolutely. One of the biggest risks of this is exactly what you guys have talked about, is retention, right? And if one party leaves, what does that do to the overall relationship? And I know I've had this experience. I'm sure many of you have as well. When you have inherited a brand new client, a brand new customer, where maybe the rep previously was no longer there or had left, and there was a gap in terms of the relationship strategy or who owned that client contact. And it really does feel like you're starting from zero, right? Like you're really having to build up credibility, establish trust, demonstrate value. And so it can really feel like we are renewing, right, that first year of the partnership over and over again when players change. And so the idea here is, if we can circumvent this from happening, if one person leaves on either side of this equation, it's not going to have a whole, that much of an impact or negative impact on the relationship overall. So if we know we want to move away from traditional partnership, where do we want to move to? Well, one potential way to partner with the client is through an extended partnership, where you have one contact within the supplier's organization, within your company, and you are dealing with multiple connections within the client's business. Often those connections are kind of wide across the organization. We may be dealing with individuals at the same level within the organization, but within different departments, as an example, or multiple people within one department. Now, there is some definite benefit of this partnership. One being that it, again, you've got multiple views into the organization. So you actually do get multiple perspectives, which is kind of nice. So you get to actually validate some of the goals and initiatives that the client's working on from those different points of view. You definitely get better insight into the customer's business as a whole, because you have those connections into different departments or different business units. But what do you think some of the risks of this potential partnership arrangement would be, of the extended partnership? What do you think some of the risks of this could be that we need to be mindful of? And I'll give you a moment again in the questions to respond to that.
Feel free to use the question area to enter your comments there, and I can read them out.
That would be great. Thank you. Yeah, and again, guys, it's what is the risk here? There seems to be some benefits over the traditional relationship, but there's still risks, right? And so we need to make sure we're addressing those risks.
I have a couple answers here, Carrie. So there could be personality conflicts. One seller's transition can impact the entire relationship.
You got it. There's still a risk because we still have that one contact within the supplier relationship. So if there is a, if that individual leaves on the supplier side, if there is any potential conflict, personality conflicts, that could have a potential risk there as well. The other thing I'd want to call out as a risk is look at who we are talking to, right? It's often going to be individuals in the client's business that's at a particular level within their organization, perhaps at the operational level, more, the doers rather than the senior leaders within the organization. Now, you still need to have connection into those individuals because they provide you with amazing insight into what the company is working on, so that you can take that intel to a senior level leader within your client's business. But if you only have connections with the doers in the organization, we may get a very limited view as to why the client has set these projects in motion or why this is important to them now. And so, the risk here is that we get stuck at that level, right? We may have individuals at this level who become gatekeepers, where we're not able to actually move past this and have more strategic conversations with different levels within the organization. And so that could be a potential risk. There's definitely some upsides to this type of partnership, but we also have to make sure, as we're looking at the ideal partnership for each client's organization, that we're managing the risks as well. All right, let's look at another model, something a little bit different, the integrated partnership. This really took an upswing in the last couple of years. A lot of organizations have started to think about how do they map the buying center, right? How do they actually map an expert within their organization on the supplier side to somebody within the client's organization that thinks and acts the same way? And so this became, quite the trend in account management, to start having more of an integrated partnership, where you've got, an IT person talking to an IT person, a finance person talking to a finance person. And so, again, you can get a really broad perspective of the customer and what's important to them now. And you also have that consistency in language, right? Where you've got someone who has expertise in that particular area the client's contact is focused on, that can actually speak that language with them, right? So that's a really key benefit of this type of partnership. As I said, though, every partnership relationship comes with risks. So again, if you could just leverage the question section of the webinar, what do you think the risks are here of an integrated partnership? What are the risks? Definitely some benefits in terms of being able to connect with different individuals within the client's organization. Another benefit is it's not all on us, right? So it's not just the account executive that has to have those relationships, but there's others within their organization that are also responsible for those relationships overall. But what are some of the risks that you see in this partnership?
I have a few comments about communication. So there could be problems with unified communication, some cross communication issues. Maybe one hand doesn't always know what the other hand is doing.
You guys got it. That is absolutely the biggest risk factor in this type of partnership, is the lack of communication or the potential for communication breakdown. It's amazing to have these relationships, but the risk is they're going to be siloed, right? And we don't then we're not able to then develop a consistent, cohesive account strategy. And we know what this feels like, right? As a sales rep that's trying to manage this relationship, it can often feel like we're trying to, play catch up with all of the different people in our organization to try to figure out what's going on in the client's business, right? And so this becomes perhaps very, activity heavy for the account rep to try to figure out how to bring all of that communication together. And so again, the big risk is you don't have a consistent approach, right? And so that can be the case here. So let's go to the last one, synergistic partnership. This is, another interesting model. At the heart of this partnership is the idea of collaboration, right? So we become an extension of the client's business, and the client contact becomes an extension of ours. So there's still that direct one-on-one connection between the two lead points of contact, but the idea here is that we've opened up our businesses to each other, where they can connect on a regular basis, where we can provide some warm referrals to others within our business that can provide the client with some answers, and they can do the same on our part. So our two individuals really do advocate on their behalf, which is really critical and important. And so there is some great benefits, again, to this potential partnership. What do you think could be some of the risks involved in this? And again, please don't hesitate to leverage the question section to be able to populate your responses to that. This might be a little bit of a tougher one to think about because the benefits of this type of partnership definitely seem to outweigh any of the risks. But there are some still, and we need to always evaluate, are those risks going to impact or influence the way that we structure our partnership with the client?
Couple good ones to start off. Too close of a connection could close out opportunities with other customers, maybe?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Yeah. So is there, is there potential that we get so embedded with it in this particular client's business that we're not able to, provide support, guidance, solutions to someone that they're competing against? It could be foreseen as a conflict of interest if that's the case.
And then another one here, when your key contact leaves, you'll need to restart the relationship from supply level.
Yeah, absolutely. So that could be a potential risk as well, as if you've got that contact that moves on, have you established enough relationships in other parts of the business? Who's going to take over that role? And so absolutely, when it comes to risk, I think the biggest risk within this potential partnership arrangement is the level of energy and the level of focus it takes to make this run well, right? So you really do need commitment on both sides. You need to have good communication with your client about how this is going to get structured, how communication is going to happen, and particularly how they're what's the activity and what's the connection that's going to happen. And so governance is a really big part of this synergistic partnership strategy. I was just working with a rep again, actually earlier this morning, and one of the things that he's done to facilitate his governance strategy around this is he's actually established what that strategy is going to look like, and then has scheduled the meetings already with his client to make that happen. So he has a main point of contact. That main point of contact has basically given him warm referrals into other areas of the business, and he has regular meetings with those areas of the business, but then comes back to his main point of contact in order to share sort of the insight, talk about next steps, and then the client does the same on the supplier side and has those regular meetings set up. So there's a cadence, there's a governance to this, there's a plan, for the most part, but it needs to be talked through. And so I think that's the most critical one here in terms of looking at synergistic partnership. You need to determine, how does the partnership and the value pyramid go together? Right? So at what level of partnership what's the level of energy and focus we want to have within the partnership based on where we provide value to the client today and where we want to go with this client in the future. So that's why, evaluating both the relationship from both perspectives is really important to give you an understanding of where your focus should be and what priorities you should be putting into place. All right, let's do a quick knowledge check on this one. So identify the partnership strategy described here. We've got multiple contacts from both organizations work as a team to drive both businesses. So I'll take a moment and let Ruplan post that poll question to you. So what is the partnership strategy that's described? Multiple contacts from both organizations work as a team to drive business.
So the poll is just launched. Give it 30 seconds for everybody to vote there.
Okay, anxious to see the results of this, this question. All right, what did you get in terms of results, Ruplan?
I'm just going to go ahead and share. So we had 52% say integrated, and then 39% say synergistic.
Oh, so you guys are absolutely on the right track. For me, it's because we use language like the organizations work as a team to drive both businesses. That tends to, for me to think more of a synergistic relationship. But it could also be integrated, right? It could also be that. It's just how do we coordinate that? So again, map value that you provide to the level of relationship. that level of partnership that you think is going to help drive that value. And this is how these two things really go together. And I'll just move back onto the PowerPoint for that. Oops, there we go. So this is how the value pyramid and the partnership really go hand in hand, right? If you are assessing a customer's organization and you know you're currently at the solution consultant level, but you know there's opportunity to grow within the business. You may currently be at a partnership level that's integrated, right? You've got multiple people talking to multiple people within their customer's business. The way to move them into that strategic level of value is by changing the partnership dynamic, right? By being able to move to a more synergistic partnership. So one actually can influence the other, right? And so if you want to find, if you want to grow the relationship, if you want to add more value, and as a result of adding more value, being able to find more opportunities to partner and work together, then really focus in on, where are we today? Where do we want to be? What's the current partnership? And what partnership model will actually get us to the level we need to get to within that organization? So it's amazing how, just by taking the time to reflect on our current relationships with our customers, the wealth of knowledge that we can get from that will enable us to develop a plan and take action, right? And that's what strategic planning is all about. I never would want you or your reps to create a plan that sits on a shelf or on a corner of a desk. A strategic plan should be about action. So if this is where you want to go, how are you going to get there? What are the steps that you can put in place to make that happen? And just like the rep example that I shared earlier, where he decided that to get to that synergistic level of value and to a higher level of value with the customer was all about putting together a governance plan and then putting that governance plan in action. So think about what are the actions that you can take to make this happen within your clients' organizations that you want to focus on. The last thing that I want to talk about is the role you play. So often when we think of the value that we provide to a customer, we really focus in on the product or service that we offer, right, that we sell to them. The features, the benefits, and the value the customer gets out of that product or service. There is incredible value in the role you play with your client. And so think about, where do I add value to their business as a whole? What role is most important to them today and why? And to do that, really think about, the different types of roles you play within the customer's organization and evaluate, where do they need the most help? So are you working with an organization where you really are the strategic planner, and playing that role within your relationship with the client? Strategic planner, what that role is all about is you are often the one providing insight into what's going on in the industry. You might be connecting your customer to similar roles within your other client organizations. You might be actually coming to the table and providing them with some great new ideas of things that they can think about as they move into new markets, or if they grow their own product line. And so strategic planner is really focused on the future, right? Where do we go together? Very important role to play with a customer. Again, depending on the level of value and the type of relationship you have, the opportunity to be a strategic planner may be more greater or smaller based on that overall relationship. So that's the first step, is looking at, what's my role? Am I actually helping them to think in the future, right? Where do they want to be? And how are we going to get there together? You may be focused on, more of the role of facilitator with your customer. A facilitator is the person that makes things happen. They're the coordinator, right? The person who makes everything come together. We are project managing, we're overseeing all aspects of the implementation, we're facilitating, issues or problems as they arrive. We are the glue, right, that keeps the relationship between the customer and our organization together. So that's a really important role to play as well. Again, depending on your partnership, you may be playing a bigger role as a facilitator, especially if it's a newer account, right? And you don't have the same levels of relationship in your business with the customer as what you maybe would like to have. So how much are you kind of facilitating that relationship between the customer and your business? Really important role to play is the trusted ally role, right? We are the confident, the longtime supporter, We have established trust and credibility, right? They see us as having their best interests at heart, right? So we are working on behalf of the client. We are there to provide support to the client. And often that goes beyond the support that we provide to the customer overall, the business, but how are we supporting the individuals that we work with? Do we understand what motivates them? Do we understand those critical success factors, the critical things that they have to have done in order to be successful this year? Are we there to understand, do we understand their own, personal or professional agendas, right? What motivates them in their role? A trusted ally is all about, establishing credibility and enabling trust between the players. So we are that confident, that support, we're liked, right? That could be a part of it, but we're really operating in the customer's best interest, and we're able to, influence the customer because of that trusted relationship that we have with them, right? So that's being a trusted ally. The last role we may be playing is one of consultant analyst, business analyst or consultant. So we are the experts, right? We are the ones that are providing intel and knowledge. And it may sound like something like, I know that other organizations in your industry are really focused on this. How does that play out for you today? What does that look like within your organization? And so we bringing best practices to our customer, right? We're sharing with them what others in their industry are doing. We're providing insight, analytics, analysis, right? We're giving them, again, sort of that knowledge, that intel about their own business that maybe they don't have today or aren't able to sort of gather on their own. And so that's also a very important role to play with your customer. So out of all of these, strategic planner, facilitator, trusted ally, business analyst, or consultant, let me ask this question, and please, again, use the question section on the webinar to respond. Which role do you think is most important? So which role do you play? Strategic planner, facilitator, trusted ally, business analyst / consultant. Which role do you believe is most important for you? So I'll give you a moment to respond to that.
I have a few people responding saying all of them, but highlighting trusted ally.
Yeah, interesting. So often what I see is when new, reps are being hired into a role, often as the hiring manager, as the recruitment manager, we look for reps that really can influence a client, that really exude trust and credibility, right? And we actually ask them questions about, tell us how you've been able to, get a client to influence a client to move, in the sales process. Talk about how you build trust and credibility within your customer's business, right? What would that look like? So we really hire based on that particular role. Now, I think it's incredibly important, but I'm also going to go to what people have said is all of them. I think that really is the key here, right? And sort of the middle of sort of this graphic is we have to be fluid. It really does come down to knowing your customer, knowing what drives their vision, their goals, right? What drives them in terms of value, and then being able to play the role that is going to be most beneficial to the customer now, right? And so for this, it's very situational. And what I want you to do, and what I want you to instill on your reps and on your team, is to figure out how to build the ability in each of these different roles. How do you build your skill level so that you can provide the right role at the right time with the person who needs it most, right? So I think you have to start with being a trusted ally, absolutely, or that doesn't actually enable you to play any other role. We have to start there, but the key is to actually develop the capabilities and the skill sets to work in each of these roles based on the customer, their needs, and the situation that they're in. Okay, so let's actually just test this out, see what you remember from what we just went through. So we'll launch this poll question. Identify the key account representative role best described here. So if we want to operate in the client's best interest, what are we doing? What's the role that represents? Operate in the client's best interest. And we'll take a moment for Ruplan to launch the poll. There it is. And take a moment to select that. So what are we doing when we're operating in the customer's or the client's best interests?
Just going to give it an extra 10 seconds to let everybody vote. All right, I'll go ahead and close the poll now.
Okay, let's see those results.
So we have 56% said trusted ally.
Yeah, you guys got it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, good.
Yeah, you guys got it. Yeah, so that really is what we're trying to do when we're operating. I mean, obviously, we're always wanting to be operating in the customer's best interests. That is demonstrating, though, the role of being a trusted ally. So really good on that, guys. You guys got that. So, let's just go back here. So as we were talking about, whoops, there we go. Why is this so important now more than ever before? So as I said, we've done some recent surveys. We've published those results on how COVID has impacted, the role of sales and the activities and the focus that sales teams, are really, are having today. And as I said, the biggest focus that we've seen, or the biggest pivot within sales teams, is a much greater reliance on growing current customer relationships as a path to growth. So in order to grow wallet share, in order to be able to find potential opportunity within our customers' organizations, we have to take a step back and really determine what's the relationship today. Where's the value, right? What's the value that we're offering to the client? How does that differentiate us? How does it impact their business, right? So can we actually tell that value story? And from that value story, where do we want to be? Based on where we're today, where do we want to be? What's our goal to better develop overall value within the customer? Where are we on that pyramid? Where do we want to be? And then how are we going to get there? And the how is all about the way we set up the relationship, the type of partnership we have, as well as what roles does the client need now and why? What's most important to help them to achieve success? And at the end of the day, that is what we're really all about, is enabling our customers' success. That's going to enable our own. And so how do we grow wallet share? How do we find those potential opportunities within the customer's business? By focusing on the relationship, focusing on our value story, and understanding what drives the customer today. And so really glad we had the opportunity to share this with you. Let me open it up now. I know we've got a few minutes. Were there any questions at all? And please, again, use the question feature. Are there any questions on what we've covered today?
I do have someone asking to kind of go over the difference between traditional and extended partnership, if you can, Carrie.
Oh, sure. In terms of the different levels of partnership. So the difference between traditional and extended is really one-to-one or one-to-many. So a traditional partnership, it's usually one contact within the customer's business and one contact within the supplier's business. And so the relationship tends to be very siloed, right? We are only talking to one person, which means we only get their perspective of the business. Often they become gatekeepers, so they own the relationship and we're not actually referred out, right? We don't get a sense of what's happening in other parts of the client's business. For an extended partnership, there's still only one rep, right, with the vendor. There's still only one of us selling to the client. However, now we have multiple relationships across the customer's business. So that's helpful because that gives us a different perspective, right? Different goals, different lines of business are going to be focused on different things. So that might give us different insight and information about the customer. But typically one of the disadvantages of the extended partnership is there's no coordination of communication, right, on the customer's end. We may get different stories and not quite sure which story is the accurate one. And we tend to have those relationships at a very lower level within the customer's business. So, all of the doers are the ones we're working with, and we may not have the relationships we need with senior levels to get more of a strategic perspective of the customer overall. Does that help? So traditional one-to-one, extended partnership, one-to-many.
Thank you, Carrie. Just give it an extra minute to to let any questions come through there.
That sounds great. And maybe I can add, one of the questions that I often get asked is, okay, love this. I want to assess my relationship, but where do I start? I don't even know if I know enough about the customer's business, right, to actually do this effectively. Because if I don't know what they value, how am I going to know where to be on the value pyramid? If I don't know what their goals are, how am I going to know how best to structure the partnership? And so my best advice around that, guys, is get yourself, your reps, to spend a day in the life of your client. And that doesn't mean following them around, because that can't happen these days anyway. But it means, taking a step back from what it is you're trying to sell the customer and focus in on becoming a student of their business. Go onto their website. Be curious about how they position their value, right? Figure out who are their customers, who are they targeting? What are some of the key things that they do that differentiates them in their market? Who do they compete against? And so start to map out some of that intel that you have on the customer. And from the perspective of, I'm learning about their business. Because the minute that we put on kind of like the blinders, right, to just focus in on what can we offer them, where can we grow, it limits our ability to kind of research effectively. So I would say, tell your reps, go through this exercise. Pick a client, take 2 hours, once a week to research a customer and to get to know their business, because that's going to help you to better understand the strategies, the goals that they're setting, and what value levers are going to be most important.
Thanks, Carrie. We did have another one pop in. So
Great.
Do you suggest that we work on an institutional relationship as opposed to a personal set of relationships with a client?
Oh, great question. I really think they are one and the same, to be honest. I mean, the institutional relationship, the relationship between a corporate entity and another corporate entity, is built on the personal relationships. And so I think that the answer to that question is not one or the other. It's a little bit of yes and, right? Yes, you need to develop and establish the personal connections that you have with individuals within the organization, as well as look for opportunities to connect at a corporate level. Is there an opportunity to do, a shared marketing initiative, as an example? Are you able to, when they launch your product or service, let's say, are you able to, market that together, or can you use them as a reference? That's more at sort of that institutional level, but that's built on, trust, credibility of the personal relationships that you have between the two organizations. So there's no right or wrong to that answer. I think the response really is you got to do both, right? You got to look for opportunities to develop relationships across that spectrum. Great question.
Thank you, Carrie. Those were the only questions that we have for the session today.
Okay, great. Well, I did want to highlight for everyone, if this topic was of interest to you and you want to sort of leverage some additional topics, there's some upcoming virtual events that the CPSA is hosting that we just wanted to let you know about. One is virtual prospecting, how to do that effectively. Man, is that ever something that is needed right now in today's environment. And then the other one coming up in March is how to inspire buyers in a virtual environment to outsell your competition. So both of these workshops, I think, will add a lot of value to your sales process and help build some really valuable sales skills for you and for your team overall. And then certainly, Rupalin, I know you can speak to this as well, but all of the courses that you take through the CPSA, if you're on a path to certification, those courses will actually give you the educational hours needed to achieve different levels of certification depending on the path that you're on. And for more information on that, you can certainly go onto the CPSA website.
Thank you so much for that, Carrie. To go through the website and access any of those webinars, virtual training, or workshops that Carrie had just mentioned, please feel free to visit us at cpsa.com/calendar, and you will find them all listed there for your registration. But I just wanted to take a moment to thank Carrie again for hosting today's session. And thank you so much to everybody who's joined today. Really appreciate it. I know it's been a tough time, but these webinars are extremely helpful to the sales profession. So thank you so much, Carrie. And for everybody on the call today, have a wonderful day.
Thanks so much, Ruplan, as well, for keeping us all on track. Again, really great to be able to be with all of you today. Stay safe. And yes, please take care out there and reach out if we can be of support.
Thank you. Stay safe, everyone. Thanks again, Carrie.
Thank you.